Hi guys, James at RampantLionReviews again for you today with another beer review. For this one we are going to head up towards Gothenburg once again, or Göteborg you should say in Swedish, and we're going to revisit a brewery who I've had some very positive experiences from in the past, and I'm very curious to see how they do with this particular style. So for this one we are going to go back to the wonderful Beerbliotek, and we're having a taste of their Would I Lie to You. So this one is a barrel-aged barley wine coming in at 12.1%. Now this beer was released through Systembolaget on the 1st of February 2019, and I cannot remember for the life of me whether it was one of the small partiers that was released on that date or whether it was one of the local releases. But regardless, it should be a really interesting beer, and I think from what I remember this is the first time I've tried a barley wine from them. I've tried some black IPAs, I've tried Belgian IPAs, I think I've had like a couple of, I think I might have had a stout and stuff from them before as well, but very first time I'm actually trying a barley wine from them. So very much looking forward to this beer. I've had some very positive experiences with this brewery in the past, and I hope you guys enjoy my take on this one. It's been a while actually, it must have been a good couple of months since I've reviewed a Beerbliotek beer, so you know that's a little bit too long to go without having one of their beers. So yeah, so as always with my reviews then, I'll tell you a little bit about the brewery. If you want to get straight to the tasting, just fast forward. All the usual links are in the description below. That's the brewery website, the link to my other reviews that I've done from Beerbliotek before. No doubt there will be some more in the near future because they are a pretty prolific brewery. There's all the usual social media. If you want to see more beer reviews, do please consider subscribing to the channel. The whole channel of course has a geography based tagging system, so you can go into the home page and search for beer based on country, city, state, county, prefecture, whatever it is you're interested in. Do check out the playlist of beers from different countries. There is one there for all the Swedish beers that I've reviewed for you. That's constantly being added to, and as always please do get in touch and let me know some of the other beers and breweries that you guys would like to see me review. It's always great to hear from you guys that are watching the videos, and the support that you show the channel is hugely appreciated. So anyway, to tell you a little bit about Beerbliotek then. So as I've mentioned to you before, this brewery is based in Gothenburg, or Göteborg as you'd say in Sweden, on Swedish, sorry, on the west coast of Sweden here. Very pretty city actually, and that west coast of Sweden is just a beautiful part of the world. But this company was founded back in 2013 by a multinational group of friends. So this is Adam Norman, who's Australian, Richard Bull, who's a Kiwi from New Zealand, and Anders Hedlund, who is a Swede, and also Daryl De Necker, who comes from South Africa. So Adam and Richard ran Bar Doppio in Gothenburg, and then Daryl and Anders were quite regular customers at the bar, and they often used to just come in and talk about different types of beer and things like this. So one day they actually decided to go out and buy themselves a brew kit and start brewing their own. So their original brewery is in the old Clip and Sugar building, which is a really nice old building that's very close to the old Carnegie Brewery in Gothenburg, which is, you know, really quite well known within Sweden and quite a famous company actually. But their brew kit is from Brewfab in Scotland, and in their first year they apparently produced 38 different varieties of beer. But all of their beers are brewed in very small batches, so they kind of stick to this kind of home brewing idea, their home brewing roots as they call it, and they very rarely brew the same beer. So they've got no kind of fixed range, and they're always bringing out new beers. You can see on the numbering system of this one that this is number 233, so they've brewed up to this point, you know, around 250 different types of beers at the brewery. What I would say about that though is there are beers that you see appearing from these guys fairly regularly. A Passion for Gingers is one, a Moment of Instant Clarity or something if I remember right, that the GBG Beer Week one that they did, and there's a few others. There's a couple of the black IPAs that seem to appear very often as well. So they do brew certain beers kind of continuously these days. I think they found ones that seem to be very popular, and they do those quite regularly of course. But in 2015 they opened up a second brewery in Kungston, which is where they have their tap room, and they now run their main brewing operations from there. The old brewery is now just used for producing sour beers, and they're also working on a barrel aging project in their new brewery as well, and I'm guessing this beer is one of the first ones, at least one of the first ones that I've seen that they've produced during that. But the idea behind the name Beerbliotek is that they want to brew a new variety of beers so that customers can kind of always learn about a new hop variety or a new malt or even a new type of yeast or something like this. Basically they want to create a library of beers, which hence the name Beerbliotek. So yeah, really interesting brewery this one. As I said, I've had some really excellent beers from these guys in the past. I'm trying to think what my favourite one would be. The last one I had from them was a collaboration with 6 Degrees North in Scotland. It was a Belgian IPA, and it was really quite nicely done. I've had, you know, the Passion for Gingers is a nice beer. You know, I've had some really good stuff from these guys. The Instant Moment of Clarity, or Moment of Instant Clarity, I keep forgetting the name of that one. The one that they did for the GBG Beer Week, the Session IPA, was also a very nice beer, and they seem to have a knack for doing black IPAs as well, which is a style that seems to have been forgotten about these days. But yeah, pretty much choose a style that you like from Beerbliotek and you're not going to be disappointed by it. The thing that's very impressive about these guys is that the quality of the beers they produce, for just kind of doing them as one-offs a lot of the time, is very impressive. So, you know, keep that in mind. These guys they're kind of along the same lines of Mikkeller. They like to try a lot of different things. Toul is the other one that comes to mind there as well. So yeah, have a go at their beers for yourself and just see what you think. But I don't think you're going to be disappointed by anything that you try from them. But yeah, that's all you really need to know about the brewery just now. If you want to learn a little bit more, you can follow them on Facebook and check out the brewery website. You can also keep up to date with them on Instagram. Facebook and Instagram, of course, are probably the best things to use to keep up to date with all the latest goings on. But yeah, let's get on to the actual beer itself then. So as I mentioned to you at the start of the video, this one is a 12.1% barrel-aged barley wine. It says on the side here, this barley wine has been aged in oak barrels for 6 months, then blended with a fresh batch to achieve refined flavours. The refined flavours our brew team was looking for. We then dedicated it to one of our favourite songs from the 90s. There's more barrel-aged beer at beerbliotek.com. Consume immediately or store cool. And that's what I've done with this one. I have stored it cool. But yeah, I'm guessing by Would I Lie to You, is it maybe a reference to Eurythmics, Annie Lennox? Who is from Aberdeen, where I studied my chemistry masters, of course. But yeah, nicely presented beer, this one. I always like the artwork that Beerbliotek have. It's really quite tasteful, actually. The other thing I like is that they put the Swedish flag, product of Sweden, on these things. Swedish craft beer, you know, stolt svensk, as we would say. But yeah, really nicely presented beer, this one. I always like these cans that Beerbliotek produce. I did keep the one that they did with 6 Degrees North, because I thought that was really cool. Scotland and Sweden involved in that one. But yeah, 12.1% barrel-aged barley wine, with basically one batch brewed and then aged for 6 months, and then they've added a fresh batch to it at the end. So without further ado then, let's get rid of the brewery notes and get this guy out and have a go at a taste. So yeah, nice little bit of smoke on the opening, and we'll get it out and into the glass. And when you open this one up, I'll tell you something, there's a lovely bit of juicy fruit comes out of this one. I'm very curious to see with this one if they've gone for a more American style barley wine, or whether it's going to be more of an English style one, to be honest. The English one, of course, tends to be a little bit more bready and kind of well fired in terms of its brown sugar, and in terms of aroma I really am wondering that, but at the same time it does have a little bit of the more kind of fruity sharpness that you would expect of the American variant, if you like. But with this beer, the head on this one, straight away it's poured, you've got a 2/3 head on this that I would say is a very kind of, it's a sort of medium beige colour. I don't know if that's quite fawn, but definitely more of a kind of medium beige colour. 2/3 of a finger there, and the colour of this one's quite interesting. It's like a very dark, kind of almost like cherrywood colour. I think, you know, cherrywood is the only descriptor I can really think of with that one. It's almost like a very dark mix of ruby and mahogany, just cherrywood, almost like red, you know, like Japanese maple leaf colours, this one, those red things. It's very dark beer. I can't think I've ever come across one that has been quite the colour of this one, but yeah, cherrywood colour is the descriptor that really comes to mind with this one. But yeah, the head on that is retaining really nicely. If I put my fingers behind the glass, even if I hold it up to the light, there's not a lot of transparency to this beer, but I think just mainly due to the colour, you're not going to see very much through it anyway. But 1 or 2 big bubbles sticking towards the side of the glass, and a few little ones just heading up towards the bottom of that head there. But you know, overall it looks absolutely beautiful. So let's take a closer look at the aroma of this one and just see how we get on. It's not overly surprising in terms of its appearance. For a barley wine, you would normally expect them to be this kind of sort of dark, reddy mahogany colour, but this one, like I say, it was cherrywood was the descriptor that really came to mind. So let's take a closer look at the aroma then and just see how we get on. As I said, when you open this beer up, you really do get a little bit of sharpness from the red fruits in it as well. Oh, I'll tell you something, this one smells really nice. And I would say, you know, if we want to try and put this one into the sort of sub-styles, there's elements in here that suggest American barley wine, and there's also elements that suggest English barley wine. So it's very curious. So straight away, the thing I'm going to say that I notice about this one You've got a hell of a lot of brown sugar in there. There's a good balance between it being slightly sweeter, leaning towards the more caramel side of things. You can definitely pick up a little bit of the more kind of treacly molasses sort of thing as well. And it's also got a good element of a kind of toasty, kind of slightly fired brown sugar note to it as well. But it's a lovely sweetness that's coming out of this beer. The aroma on this, I would say, I might even go as far with this one as saying this is one of the best aromas that I've come across in a Beerbliotek beer. It's got a lovely kind of woody backbone to it as well, some woody and vanilla notes coming out of that really, really prominently. Definitely a little bit of a kind of nutty quality as well, but you know, you are going to get these things when it's a barrel-aged beer. This one just smells absolutely beautiful. As I say, I think it's probably fair to say this is the best aroma that I've had out of Beerbliotek before, and you know, I think we're talking 10 or 12 beers that I've reviewed involving these guys, and this is the one I would think it's fair to say this is the best aroma that I've had from Beerbliotek so far. So that makes me very excited about the beer, because the Beerbliotek ones, they do tend to taste kind of similar to how they smell from what I remember. But yeah, lovely bit of a kind of woody backbone to this one, as I say, like that lovely nice smooth oaky qualities, vanilla in there, a little bit of nutty note as well. Well fired brown sugars, I think that's really quite nice in this one. Good little bit of hoppy quality in there as well. You can smell a little touch of an earthiness from the hops. There's a little bit of a kind of sort of floral grassy kind of thing, and there's some lovely red fruits. This beer almost has a little bit of a kind of cakey vibe to it as well, which is really interesting. It's almost got a little bit of a kind of caramel shortbread sort of aroma to it, something like that. Definitely kind of caramelly cake note coming out of this one. There's an element of a sort of cough syrupy medicinal thing in there. There's a little touch of phenol, I think, coming out of this one. But yeah, some lovely red fruity notes. If I had to pick what fruits it is, I think there's a little bit of a raisiny sharpness in there. There's maybe a little bit of a kind of pruny thing going on as well. And I think there's some of those kind of candied red fruit esters, you know, the ones that would remind you of that little heart-shaped candied strawberry sweet that you get in Haribo Star Mix. There's a whole host of red fruits going on in this one. When I opened it up, I have to admit, I wondered if there was a little hint of orange to it. And I am picking up, I think there's a little tiny hint of orange in this one as well. But yeah, it smells absolutely beautiful, this beer. And as I say, I think I would go as far with this one as saying this is the best aroma I've had out of a Beerbliotek beer so far. So that makes me very, very excited to try this one. And it's very, very well balanced. In terms of a barley wine, to me the aroma's coming across as more of an American one. There is a little hint with some of the brown sugars of the kind of English quality to it, and there's maybe a little bit of a bready note to it, but in terms of aroma, I would be tempted to say this is going to be an American style barley wine. So yeah, let's have a taste of this one then and see how we get on. So this one is the Would I Lie to You, a barrel-aged barley wine at 12.1% from Beerbliotek in Gothenburg here in Sweden. Let's get stuck in. Slanja, skål. Oh yeah. Yeah. I'm just going to say, you know, Beerbliotek, superb. One sip of that beer, and I'll tell you straight away, that's the best beer I've had from Beerbliotek. It's just really, really damn good. And again, this is what I say about this brewery. The thing that's very impressive about them is they can pump out a beer, and you know, they've brewed 250 different recipes, and you know, they're producing stuff of this quality. And you know, me saying this is the best beer I've had from them, it's not something that I would take lightly. If anything, probably I hold Beerbliotek to a slightly kind of higher standard than I would some of the other breweries, just because I know what they can do. But this, I would say, is the best beer I've had from them so far. And you know, it's always subjective. You know, as a beer reviewer, this is one of the reasons why I don't like to rate beers out of 10, because you'll find things like this. Some of the Beerbliotek beers I've had, I've thought have been absolutely amazing, but then you'll come across something like this that blows the other ones out of the water. This is the best Beerbliotek beer I've had, and it's by quite a bit of a distance as well. And that's not to say that the other beers were bad. The other beers were bloody good, but this one just really stands out to me. And you know, beer is subjective. people like different styles, people like different hops and all these kind of things, but in my opinion, that's the best beer I've had from Beerbliotek. So that's it out there now. You know, this is just a lovely, lovely barley wine. Straight away, in terms of the style of this one, it's an American barley wine. 100%. But yeah, this is just really, really nice. You know, if they can do a barley wine like this, I'd really love to see what they could do with a Scotch ale, like a slightly peated Scotch ale. That would be an awesome, beer to see from these guys. So if they're watching, because I know Darryl Denecker has watched a couple of my reviews in the past, I'd love to see them have a go at doing a Scotch ale. I think that would be awesome. But yeah, this beer is just absolutely top class. So if you get the chance to get one of these, do have it, and even as a kind of fresh beer, if you like, it's still very, very good. I'd love to see what you could do with aging one of these, but yeah, as a fresh beer, it's really damn nice. So let's try and break down the flavour of this one a little bit. So you can feel the middle of your palate just being blanketed with this lovely kind of slightly bready malty quality. It's like a sort of brown bready quality that just blankets the middle of your palate. The whole of that kind of bready base that the beer has just has these nice woody flavours kind of infused through it, those nice oaky notes. And the vanilla is coming out a little bit more. It's kind of in the centre of the palate a little bit, and it spreads forward towards the front of the tongue there. If you just go to the very centre of your palate and then come forward a little bit, some of those nice nutty flavours are coming out of this one as well. But the very, very centre of your palate is where the nice brown sugary notes are coming out of this one. And again, I think the thing that I mentioned earlier on with the Beerbliotek beers is that they tend to be, you know, they tend to smell quite similar to how they come across in the aroma, and this one certainly is no exception to that. This one has a hell of a lot going on in the flavour, which is very, very nice. But yeah, I like, as I say, I like how everything goes together in this one. So in the centre of your palate, the brown sugars are in there. If anything, I would say the brown sugars are a little bit darker actually than I was expecting them to come across in the aroma. It's definitely more of a kind of treacly molasses sort of thing in there, but it's interesting because it also has an element of like an almost wafery, like almost caramel wafery quality to it. The further you go into the aftertaste, the more kind of biscuity the brown sugary flavours are becoming, and the more the woody kind of quality is pushing its way out the beer as well. So it's interesting how it makes that transition from being quite syrupy and sugary to just being a little bit lighter and biscuity and woody. I like how that kind of goes together. The sort of almost vanilla-y flavours in this one, they're kind of sitting just under the middle of the palate as well. There's a hell of a lot going on in this beer, so just be prepared when you have this. Sugar it around your palate a little bit and let your whole mouth adjust to it, because there is just a hell of a lot going on with this one. But yeah, it's just an absolute monster of a beer, this one. And as I say, I think this is the best beer I've had from Beerbliotek. And you know, if it's this good when it must only be about, you know, the first batch is 6 months old, right enough, but this beer must have only been in the can a month, 2 months at most before it's gone into the shelves at Systembolaget. If it's like this when it's this young, I mean, think about how this beer is going to age. So maybe you want to buy 2 or 3 of these, try one fresh and then age it a little bit. But then, you know, they might do this beer, this one might be one of the ones that they do fairly regular. As I said, you know, they say they don't do these beers, they don't have a kind of fixed range if you like, but there are beers that appear fairly regularly. Not that that's a bad thing, of course, but the way the malt base goes together in this one is very, very nice. There is a little bit of a kind of almost cakey flavour starts to come out of it a little bit further into the aftertaste as well. If you just go towards the front of your palate, there is almost an element of it's almost a little bit like a kind of, I don't know if it's right to say rum cake, something like that. It almost just reminds me a little bit of a rum cake. The further forward you go on the palate of this one, it just has a little bit of that almost cakey flavour to it. But as I say, the woody flavours and the nutty notes push their way out the further you go into the aftertaste of this one. But it's a beautiful, beautiful beer. There are elements of the English barley wine to this one, with some of the ways the brown sugars come out, the way that the brown sugar is a little bit darker, and the beer does have a bready element, so in fairness there is an element of the English barley wine in there, but I definitely think this one is leaning a little bit more towards the American side of things. The main difference between the American and English one, in my opinion, is that the English one is just a little bit darker, whereas the American one tends to be a little bit kind of brighter, sweeter and fruity sort of things, and this one has the brown sugary sweetness and the fruitiness that you'd expect of the American variant. So on the hoppy side of things then, back corners of the palate, you've just got a nice little bit of earthiness there. As you come further forward along the sides of your tongue, that just smooths out a little bit, and then you can pick out a little bit of a more floral quality on the front corners of your palate. It's not by any means going to blow your head off in terms of IBUs, this beer, but there is just a little hint of a floral quality there at the front corners of the palate. Round the very front curve of the tongue, there's a little bit of that lighter kind of grassy note coming out of the beer as well. But the main focus of this beer, of course, is the malty quality, and of course the double IPA, the barley wine, the IPA, the pale ale and stuff, they're all related by their hop to malts ratio, and this one, of course, is at the top of the pile. This is the big brother of all of those other ones. And to me, I am wondering a little bit if they've used a little hint of English hop in here, because of the way the earthiness is coming out, and there's almost a little bit of a herbal quality to this one on the sides of the palate as well. So I do wonder if there's a little hint of English hop in here. Behind the front curve of the palate though, of course, that's where you get that nice oily bubble where those juicy fruity esters start to come out of the beer, and for me this one's got a lot of a kind of it's got a good medicinal quality to it, and that's not just because it's 12.1% and I'm Scottish. It really does have a little bit of an almost cough syrupy flavour to it, which is nice. But yeah, this one's interesting because again, the fruitiness is where you can feel the old English part of the beer and the kind of New World American part of the thing just kind of coming out. If you go to that oily bubble, like I said, at the back part of it, I think it's quite sort of medicinally cough syrupy phenol sort of thing that's coming out of it. Those kind of red fruity, almost like datey, sultana type flavours coming out of it. But the further forward you go on the tongue, the more it has a sort of red fruity sharpness, you know, it's got a little bit of a raisiny kind of figgy sort of thing coming out of it, and the further you go into the aftertaste, the more it starts to lean towards a kind of candied red fruity sort of flavour, but the medicinal kind of phenol-y flavours, the prunes and things like that, start to come out a little bit more as well. It does have a sort of, it really does have a vibe of a sort of slightly rum cake, sort of rum fruit cake kind of quality to it, this beer, or I don't know if a brandy cake. I remember my gran used to do these sort of brandy cake things as well. It really just has that sort of alcoholic fruit cakey sort of vibe to it, this beer, which is very, very nice. And the brown sugars, I'm finding that the further into this beer as well that I go, the sweeter the brown sugars come out, and some of the toasty elements really give the beer this whole just infused flavour as well. This one, to me, this is probably the most complex beer that I've had from Beerbliotek, and that's probably why I like it so much, because I do like things that test my palate, and this one really has done that. But at the same time, it's an awesome beer, and like I said, I think this is the best beer I've had from Beerbliotek, and that's not something I'll say lightly about this brewery, because I really know what these guys are capable of. So if you get the chance to try this, I really would recommend that you do. It's got pretty much everything you would want from a big Barley's beer. I might have to order another one of these and you know, age it a little bit and just, you know, do another review later on down the line. That would be an awesome little project to do with this. But as a kind of fresh beer, if you like, this is an awesome one, and you're not going to be disappointed if you decide to crack it open now. I'm filming this review for you on the 9th of February, and this beer was released about 9-10 days ago in Systembolaget, so yeah, you're not going to be disappointed by this one in the slightest. So in terms of the mouthfeel then, definitely a full-bodied beer. I don't think there's any doubt in my mind about that. Yeah, full-bodied beer, carbonation is very smooth, the mouthfeel is very oily, but that's not surprising for this beer style. The malt base, as I say, it has a really good balance between the smooth bready notes, it's got a bit of sweetness in there, it's got a little bit of a toasty quality as well, and some of the woodiness. It does get a little bit drier the further into the flavour you go, I think, and that's the woody and nutty flavours pushing their way out, which is really nice. Nice little touch of hoppy bitterness in there. I think you're looking around the sort of 30-ish IBU mark for this one, which suits the beer down to the ground, and a lovely bit of a juicy, fruity quality in there as well. If we had to put it into a sub-style, I think it's a little bit more leaning towards the American side of things, but there are elements of the old English style in there as well. So if I had to choose a camp, I would go for an American barley wine with this one. But it's an absolutely beautiful beer, and like I said, this is probably the best one that I've had from Beerbliotek so far. And of course, that's a subjective statement to make. But you know, I would just, it's my opinion, and that's what these beer reviews are to a certain degree. But yeah, a lovely, lovely beer, this one, and I certainly would not hesitate to drink this one again. I'm very tempted to go onto the website and order a couple more of these. But yeah, I just, you know, say take my hat off to Beerbliotek on this one. In my opinion, this is one of the best beers that they've produced. Probably the best that I've had from them so far, but they've produced so many. You know, they might disagree with that statement, but yeah, my opinion on this one. So yeah, have a go at this beer for yourself and just see what you think. But I think they've done a cracking job on this one. This is the best one I've reviewed for you on the channel from them so far. So yeah, let's leave it at that for this. This one was the Would I Lie to You, a barrel-aged barley wine coming in at 12.1% from Beerbliotek in Gothenburg in Sweden. Just a lovely beer, and one that I highly, highly recommend that you try. So until the next time, thank you for watching my beer reviews. Please like, subscribe, share, all the usual YouTube stuff. Let me know your own thoughts in the comment section below. Let me know what your favourite beers are from Beerbliotek as well. Check out my social media, and I will catch you guys very soon. I look forward to reviewing more of these big barrel-aged beers from Beerbliotek, because as I said, they've got a project going on at their brewery now, and it'd be awesome to try more from this. But thank you again for watching, and I will catch you guys very soon. Make sure you get this beer while you can, and I'll definitely be returning to Beerbliotek at some point in the fairly near future. Until the next time, slàinte just now, and I'll catch you guys later. Slàinte, skål.